Tonight, we interview the man who tried driving through Jewish Brooklyn headquarters.
I thought it was a tunnel. I mean, I see people going in. I've never seen people come out. Thought it was like one of those Mario Kart cut-through things, and then you bop in, and then somehow you bop out in the Middle East somewhere.
Tonight, Melania shows off how many American cities she can pronounce.
Austin, Dallas, and Houston. LA, San Francisco, and San Diego. I'm sure everyone in Nashville is having a lovely time already. Kansas City, Phoenix, Arizona, Denver, Salt Lake, and Chicago. Las Vegas.
Later in the evening, we take a look at the boxer going, "Yo, not my hand, dude!" Tonight, with a call to end locker room filming in women's sports, we speak to the female athletes committed to keeping their sports uninteresting. Tonight, we speak to Cornel West about what's wrong in America.
Niggerize a whole country.
Tonight, we dive into celebrity cleavage trends for 2026. And as we look for higher ratings, let's see that again. Tonight, and for women looking to add curves, we speak to a doctor about if cadaver fat is right for you.
Aloe clay is not synthetic filler, and it's not your own body's fat, but rather it's human-derived fat that's been processed and purified and ready for injection right off the shelf. Think of it as volume-filling material that your body recognizes and integrates immediately. I use it for creating natural contours.
We go to our field reporter with more. I'm out here in the Midwest taking a look at some prime cadaver meat. Look at the buns on these guys. Pretty soon the auction's going to start. They're going to come in here, give it a spank, make sure everything's A-grade jiggly. I thought you had to go to Epstein's Island for this kind of thing. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. And listen, we got big show improvements here. Firstly, we got a new producer working on the intros. We fired Producer Man off of that. That was getting a little bit too sloppy. And now Producer Man will be left just to playing the videos and kind of the in-studio stuff so he can really focus on that. And I just hired Steven the Wonder Boy non-scientist to help me put together some presentations. And I think you guys are going to enjoy it because we're introducing the Steven meter, which is when I put in a slide of a topic I'm interested in, and then he autistically digs in and puts in a new slide and tells me while I was wrong. So it's going to be a new feature on the show, the Steven meter. He's better than AI. When he puts his autistic brain to something, he digs right in. And I think you guys are going to appreciate some of the efforts. And if you would like to support the show, you can go to robbernsteincomedy.com for all $5 a month. And, hopefully we can have more producers than any other show on the internet. That's what we're going for at this point. After about a decade of doing the show solo and then bringing on Producer Man, who honestly, he's been a charming nightmare, and I've wanted to get rid of him multiple times, but the fans keep commenting on how much they like Producer Man. And, I feel like the show's for you guys. So if you guys like the guy, I feel bad firing him. And I know he doesn't have anything else to do and that he lives here and would have nowhere to go and nowhere to live. So, I am a compassionate person, and it's not like I pay him that well to click some buttons while we're live on air. But anyways, if you guys want to support the show, robbernsteincomedy.com. Anyways, let's get into this Epstein shenanigans because we got stuff going on. We got all sorts of stuff going on. And right off the bat, just throw a couple suggestions out there. I would like to just put out into the world if maybe it's time to consider better prostitute access for billionaires so that we can more easily separate the pedophiles from the wealthy people who got really wealthy after they picked up a wife who then got uglier over time and didn't even want to sleep with them. And now they're trying to figure out how they can get a little side action but not get caught cheating on their wife, and then maybe they get pulled into Epstein's orbit, and then the next thing you know, because I'm just saying, we can make cleaner differentiations here between the pedophiles and the people just looking to cheat on their wives if maybe we had better hooker access for the billionaires. I'm just floating it out there, and as long as I'm floating out ideas, tell me this isn't a great idea. You know, I know that there's a lot of people out there. They like the creepy Halloween experiences. They like escape rooms. And how are they not turning Epstein's Island into the world's creepiest escape room, where you can terrify the shit out of people of, oh shit, did I just actually end up in the bunker? Is this the tunnel to Middle Earth? Where is this part of the experience, or did I take a wrong turn? Tell me that couldn't make for a terrible horror movie. Anyways, we have some actual news information on the show, and to start today's episode, I would like to play the video that I missed on the last episode. I thought, and this is why we're hiring more help. You know, at some point, we're going to have so much help. How can you possibly make an error? But I did mention a video of the guy from the Justice Department, I think the Attorney General, Assistant Attorney General, assistant to the Assistant of the Attorney General. But here was the clip I wanted to play. I'll play it, and then I'll make my comments. Roll it, producer man. And he's down to just this one thing. So, you know, there are no excuses anymore for us not having proper sound and video access.
Any depiction of CSAM or child pornography was obviously excluded. Anything that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. And finally, anything that depicts or contain images of death, physical abuse, or injury, also not produced.
All right. Now, obviously, none of us want to see the images of death. None of us want to see the images of prostitution. I mean, of pedophilia. Prostitution could be interesting. But none of us want to see images of pedophilia. But once you're excluding things, did I have that wrong? I think he said investigations,
Any
right?
depiction of CSAM or
I might have
child
pulled the wrong
pornography
clip
was
again. I
obviously
blame producer,
excluded.
man.
Anything that would jeopardize an active federal investigation.
No, anything that would jeopardize an active, ongoing investigation, which is really the blanket excuse for not releasing anything. That's every single time you've ever watched one of these congressional hearings, I can't comment. It's part of an ongoing investigation. That's just the blanket excuse for not answering a question, is that's part of an ongoing investigation. So when you watch this video of that, clearly the creepiest of all the materials are excluded. And it's not like they document, hey, all of this was redacted, but here's what could have been seen in these images. Then you also have, I don't believe that these are all of Epstein's email accounts. This is the Epstein email account that's labeled vacations or whatever. So I'm sure that the more high-end business type interactions were probably taking place in a different email address. You pair that with the fact that 3 million of the documents are still unreleased. And on top of all of that, which I've been saying multiple times on the Part of the Problem podcast, it's not like they have all these documents are going, wow, there's a lot of really juicy and horrible things that are going on here. We better open up some investigations. We better bring a lot of these people in front of Congress. We better go talk to the, I mean, there's even videos of that one guy who supposedly said he left with the black book and he's sitting in some hotel room with an FBI agent. And that guy, I don't think they've spoken to that guy again. That seemed like classic, hey, the FBI, we sat down with the guy, we took his testimony, and we put it right in we put it in with that safe that we took out of his house that we magically disappeared. Have we investigated that one yet? I still haven't heard the storyline of what happened to that safe that disappeared. So I think the real storyline here is still that clearly something nefarious took place here, and the Trump administration is not interested in actually taking out whatever this operation was. And they did everything they could to not give us this information, and they're doing everything they can to try and say we're the most transparent so we can move on from this. We did everything we could to muckrack this situation. But with that, I mean, there's craziness. There's craziness on the internet right now, which is what just kind of leaves this open-ended. All right. So some of the crazy claims that I've seen is there's one survivor who's claiming that Epstein was actually a shape-shifting lizard and that she saw him shape-shift, and then has a diagram of what she shifted into. There's other conspiracies that maybe he coordinated COVID-19 and worked with Bill Gates ahead of time to make sure that there was a profit-making apparatus before they released that virus into the wild. There was chatter, what was likely insider trading, although from what I saw, there were no records of any trades off the information. But he was talking to this guy named Mandelson on the Eurozone bailout and got information on the fact that a bailout was going to be taking place before that made it to the news. You've got Wilder claims that perhaps he's actually Satashi Nakamoto, or at least was somewhat involved in the creation of Bitcoin, or it seems like a lot of this is coming from the Bitcoin Cash guys, that Bitcoin was supposed to be a tool to basically a disruptive technology that would be better for making payments. And then it got pivoted basically when the elites took it over and turned it into more of a asset holding instrument, and that perhaps Epstein was involved with that. Then you've got what we got behind us, that Biden was a clone and he was previously killed, made into an actor. And maybe Epstein himself was playing Biden the whole time. Wouldn't that be great if that's where Epstein was hiding? If they took Epstein out of jail and in the greatest ruse of all time, he was actually playing Biden in his final years when he had different heights, when he had, there are a couple of videos. There's one of him walking outside and literally looks like he's fixing his face back on. And then I remember there was one time where he was on a Zoom and like his chin was like the splitting of the Red Sea. I don't remember the Bible that well. And then there was also chatter of him being involved in cloning. And all of this is on top of the list that I did last week of all of the crazier claims regarding Epstein. This is a new list. Last week's list included Bush is eating babies. Okay. But now specifically on the topic, and, I think it's pretty clear that Epstein was involved with underage women. I think that one's very clear. I think the initial indictment in Florida included 14-year-olds. Also, I guess there's also very little chatter about what was going on in the ranch. And we've just heard more about the island, but less about the ranch. But I guess the part that's a little bit open-ended is to what extent the other people that were involved with Epstein were engaged in the pedophilia, or if he was more of a pimp character. If he was the pimp and he's just basically setting everyone up with a good time and prostitutes, pretending like it's business meetings so that they can cleanly cheat on their wives. And I'm sure you guys saw that clip from Mike Benz on Rogan, who was saying something similar, that he was basically engaged in high-level business deals and using women to grease the wheels. But, then today I was reusing Grok, which I've daily checked to be like, how many people are we talking about under the age of 18? And I don't know why it didn't tell me this in other searches, but the claim that I saw today was that a lot of the women who had made accusations had said that they were recruiting other people who are under the age of 17. So listen, I'm going to continue to delve into that, and I'm going to continue to, try and as best as possible. Like I said, the government's clearly trying to cover this up. But that one aspect of to what extent everyone else was engaged in pedophilia, or if they were in fact murdering babies, being shape-shifting lizards, and some of the other more wild claims. But then I saw this clip of Ben Shapiro, and I was like, anytime you have a similar thought to Ben Shapiro, that's a good indicator that you're just wrong and really have to go back to the drawing board. So let's roll this clip. Producer man, come on. You only got one thing.
A lot of people are looking for the connection between the Jeffrey Epstein story, the saga, the details that are now coming out, and what that means about, quote unquote, who runs our world. Now, there are a lot of very powerful people whose names have been mentioned in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. People who are hanging out, hobnobbing with Jeffrey Epstein. People who are asking dating advice, like Lauren Summers, former president of Harvard. Or people who are apparently soliciting visits to Epstein parties, or whom Epstein was soliciting to go to his parties, including people like Elon Musk. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein was friendly with Bill Clinton. There was a time early on in his life, earlier, when he was friendly with Donald Trump. All of that is true. Now, the leap that some people are making is that this means that Epstein was manipulating all of these powerful people through blackmail with regard to sex. That is not in evidence. If that turns out to be in evidence, then we will happily report on it. That is not what so far has come out. And the reason I'm making this distinction is because it is, in fact, a deeply important thing that some of the most powerful people in our society act in morally depraved ways, godless, virtue-free ways, hanging out with some of the worst people in our society, people they know to be trafficking in women who are very, very young, if not in minors. When it comes to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, what was criminally indicted was the trafficking of underage girls for Epstein's own use. There have yet to be legally verifiable allegations that girls who are underage were trafficked to people who are not Jeffrey Epstein, or by Ghislaine Maxwell to people not Jeffrey Epstein.
All right, I think I've had enough. Oh, we're at the end of it anyways. Good timing to have had enough of Ben Shapiro. But, it really makes you rethink your thoughts. And firstly, Ben's kind of been doing this thing from the other clips I've seen, is that he kept saying that there was no storyline to the Epstein thing. So this seems like the newest lie is to go, oh yeah, clearly there's something terrible here, but that part of the storyline's not true. And really just to differentiate myself from some of these other individuals and in the way that they're covering this story, because we do the best journalism on the internet and we stand by those standards. And so we can't ever have anything wrong. And anyways, this is from the New York Post, the biggest hidden secret exposed in the Epstein doc dump. And this is from the end of that article. Again, the diehards will never give up. The evidence they're looking for still hasn't shown up. That it's been suppressed or destroyed. Cue fresh demands for the release of all the files and the damning of anyone who questions it as part of the cover-up. Epstein was a pervert who engaged with minors for sex. The insistence he was selling children to the global elite is just a theory that sounds great to people who enjoy imagining that's how the world works, or those who hope to somehow exploit the true believers. Documents only mean anything with a contextual framework. That's why the courts don't give juries in criminal trials all the evidence up front and tell them to figure it out. Releasing the unmediated files simply proves to reasonable folks that no truth is out there. Let's just pity those who can't see it. And this is where I can't disagree more. This seems to be the new lie. Is yes, Epstein was a pedophile, but there's no evidence in what's been released yet to say that other people were pedophiles, and we can never get to those answers, so why don't we move on from this? And I go, absolutely not. The reason that people want to move on from this is because you guys are still trying to cover it up, and you keep moving the goalpost. I should have clipped the other Ben Shapiro ones where he was saying no storyline here. There are a lot of people, no storyline here. And now the pivot is, oh, clearly a storyline here, but there's no evidence that other people were involved. So let's move on. No, let's go investigate this. There's enough here. There's enough leads. There's enough people to talk to. There's enough resources that we could delve in and we could further investigate this. This is not a, hey, we can never figure this out, so we might as well just move on. Then you're letting them get away with it. Talk about the New York Post and the new way of just trying to cover this one up. What is fun, though, is that Clintons are actually going to have to come in and testify. So that's a good start. I'm curious to see how that plays out. The Clintons are shifty, and they are good at handling these situations. So we'll see if they manage to get any good information out of them. But that is exciting. They're going to put the Clintons on television. They tried getting around having to show up and then realized, oh, we might actually go to jail over this. So, that's a step in the right direction. But then you have this video of Trump. I'm actually not 100% sure that this is recent. It's also from RT, but it was making the rounds on Twitter. I believe it to be recent. You guys in the chat can fact check it, or we can get upset with Steven. This is where Steven's supposed to come in and use his autistic superpowers to fact check the things that I put in. But this is also Donald Trump making the claim that it's time to move on. I believe this to be recent. If I'm not, you can. Like I said, we're just trying to be the most accurate over here. You can't always achieve what you're looking to do.
And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do, because that whole thing has turned out, other than Bill Clinton and, Bill Gates and lots of people that there are a lot of questions about it, but nothing on me. But it was even sort of better than that, because they found that Jeffrey Epstein and this sleazebag writer named Michael Wolff were conspiring against Donald Trump to lose the election. So Epstein was conspiring with a writer for me to lose the election. So right there, that I had nothing to do with it.
There you go. So Donald Trump, he's still in the game of, hey guys, it's time to move on. We've seen everything that there is to see. It is time to move on. All right, today's episode is brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $6 kilo, only place in the entire world that you can get a full kilo of kratom for just $60. And before I move on, because we do have other topics I'm going to get into, I don't know why my setup tonight is that my camera is blocking the comments, but we could absolutely take some comments. BSO420, Robbie, please play the video of Trump shitting his pants. When did Trump shit his pants? Please send that my way. I would love to delve into Donald Trump encroaching into the Biden years. Except I do have a joke that Donald Trump is not aging and that he's the most energetic. And, you know, I hope he stays energetic for a little bit so I can at least get that joke out before it's inaccurate. BSO also saying that we've got mad information overload. Fair enough. Runaway Slav, what police getting body cams have been for blacks, the Epstein files have been for Jews. What police? I'm not sure I follow on that one, but I don't always follow. Alan Thickdick, you guys are still talking about Epstein? Are you talking about that you're shaming me right now that I'm still talking about Epstein, or Donald Trump? You're making fun of Donald Trump that he's still interested, or he's shaming us that we still have an interest in the topic. All right, so this is on the Stephen accuracy meter. We got to pull back up the presentation. There was this long thread that was making its rounds on Twitter, delving into whether or not Epstein was responsible for what happened on COVID. And this was a whole thread, and I linked it into my spreadsheet to slide to read the whole thing. And before I got to it, lucky for me, I don't even need AI. Like I said, I've got autistic Steven to the rescue so that I can return to doing more drinking and return more of the labor of the show to the producers. But one of the storylines was that Epstein seemed to be working with JP Morgan and Bill Gates ahead of COVID to create an apparatus to profit off of COVID before it was existing. Steven's review is trigger words and not a coherent story. Real COVID story is mass compliance. So at least on that crazy storyline, Steven's giving it an inaccurate one. All right, let's totally move on to Somalian fraud. And we'll roll the clip and then let's comment. Changing the topics here. Let's go. Roll the clip.
It's Nick Sherry, our state, guys. Look.
Says there's 14 children enrolled here.
You don't care. This is my daycare.
And where are the children?
You don't care.
Where are the children at?
It's not enough, Minnesota. You come here. It's not enough.
So we've got Nick Shirley. He's out in California. Hopefully puts together some good content and makes Gavin Newsom look as bad as Gavin Newsom should look. Should really delve into all the money that's supposed to be spent on homeless people that has not really cleaned up the homeless situation in California. I'm sure that there's a lot of juicy scams in California, and it would be nice if every Democratic governor who is hoping to make a presidential run ends up with such bad press because of journalists that are just hitting the streets and exposing these scams that they all have to leave politics. But this lady... It's the wrong argument to say you don't care. Well, why do you think I flew out here and I have a camera and I've dedicated my life to trying to showcase these storylines? It would be a pretty good indication of the fact that I'm here because I care. I mean, there's arguments you could make. You could say there's plenty of kids here. Please come on in. You got your whole storyline wrong. You're accusing the wrong person. Or I think you're making my community look bad, and even though I'm engaged in honest work, I'm not engaging with you. But you don't care, Claire. I mean, that's how do these people figure out the paperwork to be running this scam? Is there like some sort of a Ponzi scheme of some guy who presents these people and walks them through how to do it and then takes a cut? Because none of these, I mean, how did this community of people figure out how to scam our government? I haven't figured out how to scam our government. I just work hard and pay taxes. How did these people figure out this scam? Who coached them through it? Changing gears here. We've got Trump says Kennedy Center will close for 2-year renovation. And this is some hilarious, petty, rich people bullshit. You've got Donald Trump. He wants his name on the Kennedy Center. I wasn't familiar with the Kennedy Center, I guess, up until this became a storyline that Donald Trump was slapping his name on it. And is it weird while you're president to slap your name on stuff? Is that weird? Does that usually happen? That like did Obama just rename the George Washington Bridge the Obama Washington Bridge? I can't remember another president that just my name should be on that too. Usually when they leave office, they build new stuff and somebody else slaps their name on it, or you go ahead and you make your library, or if you decide not to do a library and something else, I guess you get your name on that. But usually, you guys tell me, are there other incidents of presidents just decide, I like that thing, let's throw my name on it? Have other presidents done that? But you got Donald Trump decided that his name should also be on. It's not enough that he's going to have the Trump ballroom. He slowly, everything, it's either got to be like the Gulf of America, where we declare things that had other names to be our territory. That's fun. That's actually for the whole country. And then maybe slowly but surely, maybe the Washington Monument will become the Trump Monument. Who knows what else he might throw his name on. But this is just hilarious rich people bullshit that, with all the success he's had in life, it's really important to him that his name is also on the Kennedy Center. Doesn't want to build a new center. Doesn't want to build a new thing. He already has the ballroom. It's really important to Trump, though. And I guess he maybe I missed something on this story, but this is the way I understand it. Trump just decided, you know what? Forget the Kennedys. Let's throw my name on there too. And then people got upset with this, particularly artists and musicians have canceled gigs on behalf of the fact that they didn't like, which is all stupid. It's just, I've never really paid that much attention to the name of a venue I played at. And maybe that's just where I am in my career, where I'm like, thank you so much for having me here. You mean I don't have to podcast tonight and I can actually tell jokes? But artists have been refusing the gig, and now I listen, maybe he's going to build the greatest music hall of all time. Maybe that's the renovations that are going on, but this appears to be petty rich people bullshit that the people canceling gigs were making Trump look bad, and so he decided, all right, we'll just close the thing for 2 years. That way I don't have to deal with any of the press of the fact that there are no shows going on. All right, let's take some comments before we do. Let's plug another one of our wonderful sponsors, which is Sheath Underwear. Guys, we just had Bobby Bank on the show, built an honest American business, hiring American workers, and I love their underwear. So if you're out there with soggy nuts because you've got them just in your shitty Fruit of the Looms flopping between your legs, I'm here to tell you that there's a better way to live your life. And it starts by going to sheath.com. And between now and the Super Bowl, they got a crazy promotion going on, which the pairs are already discounted, and he's letting you stock coupon codes. If you want to feel like a Jew for a day and feel successful by using Jew tricks, it's stacking coupons. All right? Just for one moment. I know a lot of you guys in the chat, you hate the Jews, but if you take a moment and you experienced it, maybe then go like buy a rugelach, get like a stuffed cabbage and try some Jew foods. Grow out side curls, show up to a synagogue. Maybe you just got to experience a little bit of the beauty of it before you all turn so recklessly anti-Semitic. Sometimes it's like that movie with Ed Norton when he goes to prison and then he gets along with the black dudes. He's like, I don't have to, because he experienced the black dudes. Maybe you guys just have to experience a little bit of Jewishness before your soul goes to complete anti-Semitism. You know what that starts with? By finding really great deals and using coupons. And that's how Bobby the Bank is solving anti-Semitism in America, is by giving people the opportunity to stack coupons and feel the joy of saving money. So go to sheath.com and use promo code RYM and get yourself 20% off the other savings that are already there. All right, let's take a couple of comments. Maybe I can go to this side. All right. Alan Thickdick. Slav is absolutely seething at these suggestions from Robbie. LOL. I'm telling you, Slav is one discount pair of underwear away from converting to Judaism. Andrew 92854. I'm probably doing that in a half hour after my tacos are done. What, buying underwear? Slav, Robbie, every single found out to help the Somalia scam has found out to be, take a guess, a Jew. Is that true? You can shoot me an email, as opposed to just saying comments that turn out not to be true. Why don't you shoot me an email on that one at robsnewsroom@gmail.com, and I would be interested. All right, last topic, and then we're going to the paywall for today. We're doing the Even More Reckless show, which is for even less research topics than what I otherwise would do on Run Your Mouth, where I can more shoot from the hip and, be wrong about things more recklessly behind a paywall. All right, this was in the Wall Street Journal for today, and there is a problem in this country that if you're enacting economic policies, there is likely not going to be an immediate impact from what you did, And culturally, we like to blame people for what's happening now, which could be rooted in decisions that took place a long time ago. So, for example, this even just came up from a comment in the chat, which is a lot of people. There was a recession under Bush, and people were very upset with Bush, and the root of that recession was really the economic boom that took place under Clinton, and what Greenspan did at the Fed, and the way that they encouraged more lending to potential homeowners that they could go out and buy homes, and that they increased available funds for people to go out and purchase homes, and they created a credit asset bubble that then came undone under Bush. And I'm sure Bush's spending didn't help, and I'm sure Bush had bad decisions, but I'm just saying that those were 8 years of prosperity under Clinton that everyone affiliates with. Oh, Clinton, what a great president. The economy was wonderful under Clinton. But really, Clinton was just juicing the books, spending money that we don't have, creating credit asset bubbles that pop under the next guy. Or in the case of lost manufacturing jobs, I think it's from a lifetime of the Fed basically inflating our currency at a disproportionate rate to how other countries have inflated their currencies, which jacked up labor prices a little bit too much over here. And if you guys want more of that storyline, I recommend the episodes I did with David Stockman when I had my short-lived Zero Hedge podcast, because I just gave you the 30-second bullet point version of what was 3 hours of podcasting. So you guys can, if you want more details on that, you can go reference those other episodes, or you can subscribe to his newsletter and just read it direct from him without any of my commentary. But this was in the Wall Street Journal today. U.S. manufacturing is in retreat. Now, it's still early into Donald Trump's on and off again tariffs. And I guess there is the potential for more of these manufacturing jobs that you guys so desperately, I think, want to work, or have an idea that there are other Americans that desperately would like to work these manufacturing jobs. You can also go reference the episodes I did with Gene Epstein that people in other roles are actually making more money than working in the manufacturing sector. And if you just assume that people want good jobs that pay them well, manufacturing is not necessarily the best place to find a higher paying job. That, I'm not sure if that was on Run Your Mouth or also the episode I did with him on Zero Hedge. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I do also have Gene coming on, I think, next week. If any of you guys have any questions you want me to ask Gene, we're doing a part 2 because there were a lot of stuff we didn't get to in the last one. You can email me, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. But anyways, for those of you who are very excited for new manufacturing jobs coming in under Donald Trump, this was from the Wall Street Journal. Listen, it's a little bit early. I don't think Donald Trump, and even in this article, they talk about that a lot of the lost labor was through COVID, which I do think Donald Trump does bear some of the responsibility for that. I do not think that Fauci needed to lead the charge on how we should be handling our COVID policy. I think we can all agree that the vaccine, Operation Warp Speed, was not the greatest thing that ever happened in our country. And so I think letting Trump off the hook for COVID-related downturns that we haven't recovered for is not something he should entirely be off the hook for. But on the plus side of the Donald Trump ledger, the loss of manufacturing jobs, at least prior to this year, are certainly not his fault. And the bad environment for U.S. manufacturing is not Trump's fault, although he is just pushing for lower interest rates, which I don't exactly think is going to help that situation. But anyways, that's enough scattered thoughts. Let's read a little bit of the article, and let's go full screen for that. We'll read what I highlighted. All right. Manufacturing shed workers in each of the 8 months after Trump unveiled Liberation Day tariffs, according to federal figures, extending a contraction that has seen more than 200,000 roles disappear since 2023. Now, first, I guess it would be more interesting to see numbers starting from when Donald Trump took office, even though a lot of that would be relative to the Biden economic policies, not just Trump economic policies. So it is a bit of a distorted figure going with 2023. But for those of you that were very excited for manufacturing jobs coming back, at least at the moment, we're losing more than we're gaining. All right. The gradual slowdown is some ways a continuous of decade-long trends that pulled factory jobs overseas and helped empty out Midwestern cities in an industry where capital plans and construction timelines extend years into the future. Turnarounds also don't happen overnight. So that's what we were talking about, that you can't just, even if Donald Trump has a good plan for this, it's not like you would necessarily see it in action immediately. All right, last thing that I highlighted, the White House's stop and start policy making, Trump threatened new tariffs on Europe, Canada, and South Korea in recent weeks, has also led to what many executives view as a lost year for investment. And that was the line that I found most interesting, because it was something that I was criticizing of of Donald Trump's tariff policies, is that if you think you're bringing back manufacturing jobs and you're changing the landscape of where people can source materials, what price they can source materials at, and you've got a bigger problem, which is if you're a business, you're no longer just trying to figure out how you can be the most profitable. You're also trying to anticipate the new laws that might come in with a new administration and how that might completely change your investment strategy. And then you got to think about how much economic growth is lost off of faulty business planning, or having to completely, you spend 3 years thinking that you were going to make X investment, and then they change the laws on you and that investment doesn't make sense anymore. And then maybe you don't even want to invest at all, or you're shutting down your business, or you're just not growing your business. And I think that's probably what will turn out to be the biggest story of this. Is firstly, all right, so you want to get new factories here. I mean, what's the plan? How soon are we opening these factories? How soon does that lead to new jobs? And is that really a smart way to approach our business environment, is through central planning to try and favor a boost in more factory jobs? But then also, how much money gets lost because of bad business planning, and that people are just trying to anticipate whether or not there will or won't be tariffs. Now, for Stephen's debunk of this article, and, like I said, I think you guys are going to like the new hire of Stephen on the back end. Stephen wants to let everyone know that the statistics on this, or that this article is mostly overblown, because proportionally the recent U.S. manufacturing job losses are very small compared to the total workforce. That's also interesting, though, that you said total workforce as opposed to the total amount of jobs in manufacturing. Kind of sounds to me like the ratio you're taking is also not a fair scale. Even though headlines say thousands of job loss, the sector employs, I guess he did it specific to the sector. I spoke too soon. The sector employs 13 million people, so the declines are only a fraction of a percent each month. Employees shed 12,000 manufacturing jobs in August. Total losses since April, 42,000 jobs. Manufacturing employee is roughly 13 million, so you're looking at a 0.32% decline. Why it feels big but isn't proportionally, news reports emphasize the absolute number of 12,000 jobs lost, which sounds large, but relative to the total manufacturing workforce, these are tiny dips, not structural collapse. It still is an indicator, though, that he certainly isn't adding manufacturing jobs, or there's not some huge boom in manufacturing because of the policies that he's implemented. But as we've already pointed out, that it's early, and so I guess there's an opportunity for a turnaround there. I don't anticipate it, and I also think going into the midterms, he's going to need some wins, which might be a faulty way that we run our government, in that it's a little bit almost like the way that people are running their companies, that they need immediate stock immediate returns to their investors. And so maybe they're not looking at 10, 20, and 30-year plans, or at least not selling to their investors well enough that that's what they're doing. And so maybe there's a problem that, you could do something like you could do austerity measures, for example, and it's going to be bad now, but it could actually pay off down the line. And we live in an environment where I guess if every 2 years you got to win elections, that does kind of incentivize what can I do today that will get me votes. And that's usually some sort of a socialist initiative in which you can buy voters. All right, that is our episode for today. For those of you who feel like the episode's not long enough, you want more content, in about 5 minutes at robbernsteincomedy.com, we are going to start the Even More Reckless show, and the topics for today that we will be delving into is, one, we're going to review a video of the guy whose family made the original Philadelphia cheesesteak. We're going to take a look at the new guidance on transitioning kids. And we're also going to look at the storyline of Epstein's last girlfriend. Going to take a quick break, put a fresh Zin in my mouth, and I'll see you guys over there in 5 minutes. But I'll take a comment before we call it. Andrew, the gold and silver run last month was insane. Yeah, I got lucky on that because I don't do every time I look at my stock portfolio, I'm like, man, I should really do more investing. I might be the most brilliant person ever. And like 6 years ago, I always wanted to buy more physical gold. And every time I spoke to my friend about it, I don't know why I didn't do it. It was a lazy thing that I just never really was buying physical gold, especially like 10 years ago. I was like, you know what, when I start just working for a living and I have a paycheck, I want to put 5% in physical gold. I just never did that. I did buy, not like a ton of money in it, but I looked at my portfolio, man, dude, I crushed it on nuclear calls. When I'm not call options, but like my calls for that I think nuclear would be in an upswing. I did really well front running the Donald Trump administration on precious minerals, and I bought MP. And then all of my silver and gold miners are up to the wazoo. But guess what? I'm not good at taking profits, so I will just probably ride that down. And so I don't know why. I mean, up until last week, Bitcoin's making us all nervous. I don't know about you guys. Hopefully we get Guy Swan on the show soon to address the Epstein storyline and also to convince us that now's the time to buy more Bitcoin. But yeah, I'm not particularly good at taking profits. I like to just let things sit and then eventually turn around and go, oh yeah, I felt like a winner for that 1 month, but I didn't take any of the actual money. But that's why I hate capital gain taxes. It makes you all nervous. All right, one more comment. More like selling out to Trump for a living. I don't know what that is. All right. Anyways, that's our episode. See you guys in a couple minutes. RobBernsteinComedy.com. $5 a month. Support the show. Getting more producers. Getting the Steven meter going. That's it. See you guys later. Sayonara.